Good morning and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if this is the first time that you've joined us. I am part of StudentSOS. We are here to help young people and indeed older people, all learners, to excel in subjects from the 11 plus examination through to A-level and Ucat and BMAT examinations. Let me just adjust that camera a tiny bit. Okay, that's a bit better. So this morning's video has me on it rather than just me talking, because I had a conversation with a parent late last week and she was really worried because her son didn't do very well in his A-level first year AS biology mock examination. Now, it's just one test and, you know, these things are not desperately concerning overall, except for the fact that at the end of year 12, unfortunately, schools and teachers are in a position to be offering you predicted grades for Ucas. And whether or not they offer you a grade that you need makes an enormous difference as to what courses it's worth applying for. And we'll do a video a little bit closer to the start of the new term in September, talking about what you should be thinking about, what you should be looking for in terms of courses that are aspirational, but also courses that are much more realistic if things don't go the way you hope that they will. So, the student that I'm talking about, he's doing very well in two of his subjects, but the exam was a fail for A-level biology, and she would wanted some advice as to what to do. So there's a few things that came up in this conversation I'd like to talk really generally about. So the first thing is, try to get a copy of the paper that you sat. Doesn't matter whether it was a U grade or a C grade and you need an A or any other grade. If you're a couple or three grades adrift in the mock exam, please see if you can get access to a copy of your paper. This is going to help for a few different reasons, because hopefully you'll be able to see for yourself the mistakes that you made that were silly mistakes. We do them all the time, and all that we can do for examinations is reduce the number of those that you make. You'll never eliminate all silly mistakes. They're caused by stress of the day, misreading questions because of reading them too quickly, because of time constraints, all kinds of different things. A slight mental fog that happens partway through the exam, you lose your concentration because someone dropped their ruler. You know how it goes if you've done exams before. So we can't remove all of those, but if you can identify those, then you've got a much better chance of reducing the risk of you doing those next summer. The next thing to look for is whether or not you can get a copy of the mark scheme that the school used. Now, that might be more tricky, because some of the mark schemes are locked deliberately by exam boards, and therefore only schools and examiners like myself are able to access those. They should not be being made public to any students until the exam board make them public. So depending on how they've constructed their papers this summer, you may or may not be able to get hold of a mark scheme. But if you can, or if you can find very similar questions online, or if you have access to a tutor or a teacher that will spend some time with you before the end of term, try and work out what language you were not using to answer some of the questions. So you may have knowledge gaps, and they're actually probably the easiest thing for you to plug yourself. You can use the video series that I've already started making here, but there are hundreds of YouTube content creators, there are hundreds of textbooks, there's hundreds of online resources, you have the resources your teachers have used hopefully throughout the year with you. So plug the knowledge gaps. They are things you can do. So once it stops being about knowledge, it tends to be about how you answer examination questions. And this is a genuine art form, even in science subjects, I'm afraid. So what you have to do with these is you need to look at mark schemes and see what language they need you to use. Generally speaking, the words will be underlined. If you fail to use the word or words that are underlined, you won't get that mark. That seems really harsh, but that's the reality, and that's true in all exams. It's not a biology specific issue. So make sure you're using the correct terminology. So many papers that I mark, either of students that I teach or as an examiner of students that I've never met, they write answers that they make sense, they're correct science, but they're not using the right terminology in the right way. So make sure that you're using the right words. Simply using the words by osmosis or by diffusion will sometimes give you an additional mark in a 2-mark answer. So molecules move from where there's a lot of them to where there's fewer of them, mark 1. By osmosis, 2nd mark if we're talking about water, or by diffusion if we're talking about molecules that are not water. We'll do some work on that material as we move forward because exam technique is incredibly important. But be really honest with yourself. Is what you've written really what the mark scheme wanted? And of course, the third thing to consider is whether or not you read the question accurately. So many students fail to pick out the key command words: describe, explain. They don't mean the same thing. Again, when we look at exam questions and exam technique, then we'll take a little look at what the difference is between when I want you to describe something and then when I want you to explain it. Questions sometimes ask you to do both within the same question, but also quite often you'll be asked to describe a graph or some data, for example, and then in the next separate question to explain it. These are 2 completely different skills, and students often do one and not the other, and that usually limits your mark to half of however many marks are available for that question. Or alternatively, they'll explain something or attempt to do so in the describe bit and then fail to answer the next section because they've just written that already. And so they haven't written it in the explain section. So again, have a look through your paper to see whether or not there's anything that you can fix yourself, or indeed get help from teachers before term ends. So moving forward, you need to know a few things from school. You need to know how this will influence a predicted grade. Now, if this is your last opportunity to find out your predicted grade before the summer, and that your predicted grade will largely be based on the mock exam, now you have a conversation that you need to have with people. Because what really you need to be finding out is if they're going to offer you the opportunity in September as you return to sit another mock, a different paper. Now, lots of schools do offer that, and many schools do it as standard, and that your predicted grade will be based on what you do in the summer in the autumn in September, rather than what you did in the summer, because it gives you the summer to fix that. However, you do need to fix that over the summer. The things that I've just talked about, you need to do as term ends. I understand how tough a year this has been for everybody, including students and teachers and tutors and almost everybody on the planet. So I understand what you want is a big long rest. Depending on where you are right now, you do not have the opportunity to take a big long rest. Take a couple of weeks off and then you need to get back on it. Doesn't matter if you take your couple of weeks at the start, take your couple of weeks at the end, or take your couple of weeks in the middle. But that's what you get if you're struggling year 12. You get 2 weeks off in the next 6 weeks that are coming up for the summer holiday. Because if you want a decent predicted grade in a subject and you're 2 or 3 grades down off that, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to need to put in the work, because you don't get a second chance with that. And as we move forward, we'll talk a bit more about options when you don't have the predicted grades that you wanted to have. But we'll look at that in a different video. So it's really important that you sort out now when you want your break. You might be going on a staycation with family. Lots of people are doing that this year. That will be your break then. If it's only for a week, find another week that you're going to take off. If you're not going away, you get to choose when you want to take your 2 weeks. So that's fantastic news. So if you're staycationing at home, you get to choose when you take that break. But the rest of the time, you need to be working on how you're improving that grade so that hopefully you're getting an opportunity in September to have another crack at that exam, a new mock exam, which they'll then use to support your university application. In addition, over the summer holidays, please start looking at your personal statements. The rest of your Ucas paperwork is much more straightforward to fill in. I'm going to do a separate video on Ucas and personal statements, but please start thinking about what skills that you have, what it is that you can bring to a university, to a particular course, to a possible career if you know what you want to do at this point. More of that in just a second. So have a little think about what it is that you're trying to achieve, where you're trying to go. Know the grade that you require. How far have you to still go? Are you a C grade and you need an A? Are you a D grade and you need a B? Are you a U grade and you need an A? Try to be realistic about what can be achieved. Only you know how much work you did for the summer mock exams. If you worked really, really hard and you got a U grade for your summer mock exams, there's very small possibility that you're going to be an A grade candidate at the end of next year. It happens, but it happens rarely. So that's not said to be harsh, but what I would advise is if you're a U grade candidate today in A-level biology, you avoid putting down courses which are A grade requirement biology, or you will depend on biology being an A grade, regardless of the combination of grades being offered. Think realistically, you don't want to set yourself up to fail. So it's really important that you start thinking about that. I've also heard parents talk to me about the fact that students are really panicking about what to do with the rest of their lives. So let me help you break that down a little bit as well. I don't want you to worry about what you want to do with the rest of your life. Almost certainly, what you do with the rest of your life will not bear any resemblance to what you think you'll do with the rest of your life today. What I want you to think about is, what are your interests? What are you good at? What could you do forever and it not be work? There are loads of things that you do and you probably don't think you can make money from them. I don't know if that's true. You can make money from most things if you're really good at it. So think about, what are your interests? What are your talents? What are your passions? These are the things you should be thinking about studying at university, or indeed not studying at university, controversially, and going and being an apprentice, or going and setting up your own business. There's thousands of different routes. University is just one of those routes. And in fact, arguably nowadays, so many people have undergraduate degrees, not everybody values them in the same way as they did. And of course, they're attached to a huge amount of student debt. Again, I'll do a little video on student debt closer to the September restart. Nevertheless, think about the things you'd like to study. What are you interested in? What are you good at? Which of your A-level subjects do you love and it's not hard work to study them? Do you have any that are? Do you hate your A-levels, all three of them? Do you need to look for something slightly different? There are no correct answers, but spend some time with yourself thinking about, what are my strengths? What are the things I really hate doing? We all hate doing certain things. Reduce that as much as possible in something that interests you as a career. Do the things that you love. There is a quote that suggests if you do work that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think to some extent that that's true. So think about the things that you're passionate about. Think about a degree that you'd like to study. Think then about how far away from home you want to be for university. Now, an instinct with year 12 is to think as far away as possible. I'm very sympathetic to that viewpoint. I felt much the same way when I was a year 12 student. But think about whether you want to be able to get home reasonably easily. Not too easily. We don't think that going home at the end of every week is a good idea. That's the opportunity to meet other people in your house, your halls, to meet people on your course socially. I wouldn't advise people go home every weekend, but do you want to be within a couple of hours of home? So getting on a train or getting in the car isn't too difficult to do over Friday, even if it's been an awful week. So if you want to be able to do that, think about how far away you're going to go and how easy and costly it's going to be to get back home again. So have a think about how far away you want to be. Attending university open days has been disastrous for the last year or so, and that may well continue. I don't know the truth of that right now, but start having a look on university websites that interest you. Find out a bit about them. Why do they interest you? Why do you want to study there? Don't just say, so I can get home to get my washing done. That's no good. Think about, how do they run the course? Is it a lot more hands-on if you're doing a vocational or practical course? Is it more theoretical? What works for you? What type of learning works really well for you? So there's loads of things to explore and think about over the summer holidays. I'm very happy over the summer to run some Zoom sessions for students in year 12 who are in the situation this video is discussing, where they have struggled to get the grade they wanted. So if any of you are interested, could you please drop a comment below? Because if I have enough of you interested in doing some work, we can do some work where you can ask specifically for what you want to look at, and I'd be really happy to run some of those Zoom sessions. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the content or found it useful, or think you'd like to find the theory content that I've just been talking about, which I'll continue to produce over the summer, hit that like button and subscribe to be notified when we upload new material. We also have a Patreon account, and for £3 a month you can get discounts on one-to-one work, free access to exclusive Zoom material. So please consider going over to Patreon, which is linked down below, and consider joining us there as well, because that helps to make the YouTube material free. In the meantime, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.